Before we get started, just a quick note, spoiler alert.
And we are adults, and I will try very hard not to use adult language, but this is the warning.
Hello and welcome to Fright Bites. My name is Jennifer.
And I'm Sedina. Each episode, we will feature a short story or novella. You can read along with us by finding the full reading list posted on our website, lastlibraryonTheLeft.com, or our social media, LLOTL Podcast.
And this is our last duology, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So we're covering the very last duology, which saved the best for last because this one was really funny. So the first one in the duology is Prosper's Demon by KJ Parker. And before you confuse yourself like I confuse myself, KJ Parker is a pseudonym that the author Tom Holt uses.
Yes.
So this was published in 2019, and it's a Tor.com book. The summary, just really quickly, the unnamed and morally questionable narrator is an exorcist with great follow-through and few doubts. His methods are indelicate, but they're undeniably effective. He'll get the demon out. He just doesn't particularly cares what happens to the person, and I'll leave it at that.
So I really like this character. So my first two notes contradict each other immediately, and it was within like the first few pages. My first note was, that started off right in the thick of it, but also kind of hate the dude because he's too blasé about the death of sex workers. And I was like, ugh, I hate this guy. And then my next note is, ... I take it back. I kind of like him.
Yeah. I have a couple of notes here, and I'll just say these two books, probably one of the best, if not the actual best openers in all of the books that I've read these past 31 days, because they're just really funny. And of course, I'm going to exclude The Last Final Girl because that's so more my genre. Already fangirling for that one. But these openers are just so good.
Good.
Love the narration. A lot of what he was saying is a lot of what goes on in my head, minus the exorcism and the demons. It's just like, oh, I know they don't like me, but I'm gonna keep talking.
Yeah, okay. So one of my favorite was, he said, people hate me, but are too afraid to do anything about it just in case they need me later. And I was like, that's good. He's a complete dick about it too. He's like, look, I can act however the fuck I want because you're gonna need me at some point, and when you do, you don't want to be on my bad side, so like I can be an ass. And I was like, wow, I kind of really love you, sir.
Yeah, okay, so just keeping up with the theme of myself of not taking notes and just kind of enjoying the book, I wrote down afterwards he was unremorseful, cynical, hilarious, and kind of unnerving with some of his truths.
Right.
Don't go there. And then before you even got in on the call and I came up, I was looking up the summaries. What I do for the ones that have summaries already readily available, I don't need to write them down. So like I'll bring them up on Goodreads because it's been helping with the 31 days. As I was looking up the summary for Prosper's Demon, I found this little gem from the New York Times review, and it says that it's as if Deadpool had slipped into the body of the Witcher Geralt.
I saw that too. It's actually on the cover of Inside Man.
That's just chef's kiss. So perfect.
Yeah, he's so cantankerous, but like still so relatable.
This one was so funny.
I really liked the back and forth between the exorcist and he, because for the most part, all the demons are like ungendered. But yeah, he has like some serious issues with he. They need to go to like counseling or something. They got some real trauma.
It took a good hot minute, which is why it took me so long to finish Prosper's Demon, because I was like, wait, every time I see he, they, she, it capitalized, I was like, wait a minute, are they talking about God? Because God's the only one that I've always known is capitalized. And I'm like, oh, Jennifer, you're confusing yourself. So I had to go back like, wait. No. That's not what they're doing here.
Also, were you taken aback when you first were introduced to Prosper? Because I thought Prosper was the exorcist.
Yes.
And then you find out Prosper is basically the Leonardo da Vinci of this book. And I was like, wait, so it's his demon. And then I was like, oh, it's the baby. And so I'm like trying to figure out the book. I was like, it's the baby. The baby's going to get possessed. And then you find out Prosper also has a demon. And I was like, wait, so the demon is his, but then also the baby was possessed. I was like, there's demons everywhere.
They're everywhere. So I was already trying to wrap my head around the fact that the demons can inhabit the eggs. And I was like, wait, what? And I was still thinking about that as I kept reading. And so when it got into the baby part and that Prosper had the demon and the baby was probably getting possessed and like protecting the baby, I was just like, wait, what? And not in a bad way. It was fun and chaotic.
Because that was the thing too, is that you find out they can possess prenatal. And so you're like, oh man. And then you find out part of the reason they possess prenatal is not because they're like, mwahaha, babies.
Yeah.
It's because it's somewhere they can hide and regain strength. Because if someone tries to exorcise them from a baby, it'll kill the baby. And so the exorcists don't want to do that. But then they have about 10 or 11 years before puberty before it'll be safely extracted. And then they'll just kind of like leave on their own. But that gives them those years to build up their strength and be able to move on. And I was like, wow, that's really diabolical.
It's really diabolical. Just hearing them explain that, oh yeah, like 10 years, these kids are like dumb and young and they don't know. And I was like, wow, just okay.
Yeah, it was so much fun. In fact, I'd say, okay, this is an inside joke for those that have read, I'd say 60% of it is just lots of fun. The other 40%, I got really hung up on the conversation that the Exorcist had with Prosper when they first met.
Because, when they talked about art?
Yes. So Jennifer, okay, I have never, ever fully understood the appeal of museums. I mean, I get that art is pretty, but I've never been the type to just sit and take it in, try to find myself in it or whatever. And so I get bored in museums. I'll be that person who just walks really fast through them and takes in what I can and then like leaves, but I'm not changed on a level over the art. And so I've always been like, man, it's kind of a nuisance because I like art, but I don't appreciate it the way that most people seem to appreciate it. And then this fucking asshole had the nerve
to call us out.
Right. Because the Exorcist goes to Prosper and he was like, what is the ultimate good? And Prosper answered and he was like, art. Art is the ultimate good. And the Exorcist was like, well, why? And Prosper says it's because art is good because it's beholden by good people. And so when art is not good, it's because the eye of the beholder is imperfect and they're corrupting the art through their own lens and they're unable to appreciate the inherent goodness of art because they're unable to see true beauty. They can't interpret it. And I was like, wait. Why you gotta call me out like that?
I mean, called me out too, and I was like, you know what? You've never been to our science museum's Halloween party after hours to enjoy the greatness that is, and it has nothing to do with any type of art. I just kept thinking, like, that's really rude, because same as you, I don't really like the art museum thing. I don't get it. I went to New York with my sister and her now husband, and we visited many a museum, and with the exception of the Yoko Ono John Lennon exhibit at one of them, I could care less about art. I mean, I like a couple pieces that everyone knows. Some Da Vinci, The Starry Night. Is that even Da Vinci? I don't even know. Like,
that's Van Gogh.
I'm so stupid when it comes to art. I just don't know. And I don't care. You know what I mean? I don't care. But that's just me. I don't appreciate that stuff because I don't get it. I attribute it to my people. Like, we don't care for that stuff.
Okay, that is a solid point. But like, okay, so you know when you're in school, you have to take some elective or whatever, and you have music or art. I got kicked out of music because I could not get it, which I still to this day don't. But in art, I could never create anything. I could only replicate, and I can replicate things real well. I mean, I am not a forger, but I very briefly considered becoming a forger because I was that good at replicating.
See, I didn't have art class. Listen, I grew up in the hood, and we were blessed to have a plethora of electives. So I took home ec because that was an elective. I took photography because that was an elective. I had really good electives. So yeah, I didn't take the art class because photography was in the stand of art and I just didn't need art. So I don't have that appreciation. My sister appreciates all day and I'm like, more power to you because I'm not that cultured, I guess. I don't know.
I have friends who can just wax poetic about art and I'm just like, I don't get it. I'm sorry. I mean, I understand on an intellectual level, but I don't understand the emotional impact.
I mean, that's like me and wine too. Like, don't ask me what notes it has. It tastes good, okay? There are some things that I'm happily dumb about, and those are it, and it's okay.
Well, that is the part that messed me up.
I didn't like him calling us out, because he's like, oh, you gotta educate the beholder for them to appreciate it, and that art is the lightness to the darkness of evil. I'm like, bleh.
But that being said, the rest of the book really got me because, I mean, granted, that really upset me and I was like, put it down for a while.
Yeah.
But because I felt so attacked.
Yeah.
But the rest of it is really fascinating to me because I love the theological argument of good versus evil, because I believe that that's, remember our conversation the other day about good and evil?
That's literally what I was thinking about. I was reading.
Yes. Religion is actually the reason why I don't like the argument between good and bad people. That pisses me off.
So much sense. Because I was listening to the episode today and I was like, we think the same thing. It's just I was using the wrong words. And
makes sense because you're not coming from a Judeo-Christian background.
Yeah. Because I was like, yeah, we're all inherently good. And I'm like, Sadina, what are you talking about? You are inherently good, whatever. Again, just like you said, language is so nuanced. So, but I thought of that and I can definitely see where it stems from because of this. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's the female demon that I think it's Prosperous demon that talks about this, but she talks about the long con and the grand design of what is a secular truth or good and evil. And they're like magnetic poles, you know, they change over time. And it's the way that those things are viewed and how one generation can think that racism and slavery is great. And then another generation is like, that's some bullshit. And so, you know, everything is swayed over time. And so these like larger ideas of what is good or bad and how in the long term, some of those arguments are a moot point because the society that you live in is going to affect how you view those good or bad points. And I really appreciated that whole like discussion with the female demon in that. She like really got me. That came out weird. Okay, we're just gonna like gloss over that.
That was a really good discussion. That was a really good conversation. She was really good. Yeah.
She was really snarky and sassy, and I really liked her. But then the other thing that I thought was really interesting was because they also kind of brought up this idea of language, because the exorcist, he was having an argument with the male demon that he's like had an antagonistic relationship with his entire life. And he was like, wow, as we play this game and this demon and I age, he's getting so much more sophisticated in his arguments. And the exorcist was wondering, is it because the demon himself is becoming more sophisticated, or is it something to do with the understanding between them? And I was like, I think it's about when it comes to language and nuances, you are better able to interpret each other when you have a better understanding of language. So it really had to do with the exorcist's growth as a human, understanding his world around him to better interpret the communication between him and he.
Oh man, such good analysis. You did a really good job.
I just loved this book.
Yeah, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I was just like, I stopped writing notes a long time ago.
I mean, I have so many. Tom Holtz, this book, and the next one, Inside Man, if it weren't for the romance of Silver and Tobias, I think this would probably be my favorite, but it's a real good contender because no, it was not the exorcist. It was Prosper the human, because Prosper the human doesn't realize he's possessed. So he was talking about his belief versus his secular mind. And he said, on belief and faith, you can't make it come if you want it, and you can't make it go if you don't.
Oh,
and I was like, bro, you're so good.
Yeah. This is my first time reading anything of Tom Holt, KJ Parker. I was looking it up this morning and people were like, oh, this is so much more like his other stuff, his stuff that goes by his real name. And I was like, maybe I should give this a try.
Yeah.
Because this was a lot of fun.
It really was. And the last thing I want to say about it is that for as much fun as I had trying to figure it out and really get in depth with all the questions and stuff that he brought up and really made me think on, in the last 3 pages, the whole thing it just went to hell. It just like all of a sudden this massive turn of events. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? This was amazing.
It ends so abruptly.
Yes.
And it's
but
just
like so beautifully.
Yeah.
Because there was all these other questions in the book about what makes a genius and what is genius and da-da-da. And I was like, no, that ending, that was genius. That was so good.
It was so fun. It was so good. So enjoyable. Typically, this is something that I don't know if I would have found it on my own. Although the cover for Inside Man, because Inside Man was released this year. And so I got to see it on our new bookshelf. And before you even decided the 31 days, I had picked it up as a book to read.
Oh, nice.
It just seems like something I would have maybe organically picked up, having read the second one, realizing I need to read the first one. And it's just perfect for the spooky spooky season to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice and chilly now, so you can enjoy it, really, really enjoy it, I feel.
Yeah, I think that this was not only a fun read, but it was low risk type horror, you know?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There was so much more comedy in it and so much more thought-provoking questions that if you are like me, then you zeroed in on those. I'm going to wind up buying them. I have them from the library, but I'll be buying them. They were so good.
Yeah, these were so good. How would I equate this? I would equate this to, I mean, for those that are as old as I am and you remember all the different Hulk movies that came out that were bombs, and then they switched up and they made the Iron Man movie, and you're like, oh, that's hilarious. I might be invested in the rest. Like, this is a good intro to horror.
Yeah, it really is. Because, like, the only real technical aspect of it being horror is the demons. But other than that, it's just a fun read.
If you know anyone who's really struggling with horror, just, oh, that's not for me, this is a good one to give them.
You know how we're always like, oh, if there's one on the list you should read. Okay, also add this one.
Yeah, we've talked about it, and I think we're going to end up having to rank our 31 days.
All right, guys, we will talk to you guys tomorrow about Inside Man. Yes, I hope y'all are looking forward to it.
Okay, bye, y'all.
Bye.
If you liked listening to us ramble on about horror, subscribe to our podcast and tell your friends. And if you would like to follow us on social media, you can find us on Instagram or Facebook at LLOTL Podcast.
Check out our website by going to lastlibraryonTheLeft.com. Be sure to visit our About Us page to discover our 2 truths and a lie. Or, if you'd like to send us an email, you can reach us at somethingwicked@lastlibraryonTheLeft.com.